what's scary. 10,000 North Korean troops being supplied to fight alongside Russia from a country with an enormous military power is, to me, a huge escalation. And just imagine if there were 10,000 NATO troops fighting on the other side, what Russia would think of that.
The breaking news, The Times has a picture this morning of a fragment of a missile said to have been found in Russia, and you can clearly see the words Storm Shadow written in capital letters made out of dots that have been tapped into the silver-grey metal. Russian military bloggers published them on Telegram and said they were found by residents of a village within Russia. So how does British weapons being fired into Russia change the war? We are going to speak now to Vadim Prishtaiko, the former Ukrainian ambassador to the UK. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What does this change, do you think? I mean, the British government won't officially confirm this, but Storm Shadow missiles being fired by Ukraine into Russia, what does that change? What does it mean?
We're not confirming it either, but everybody understands that the decision to use the long-range missiles were obtained both from the United States and the UK, and hopefully from France, because we're using both Scalps and Storm Shadows from Britain and France, respectively. We hitting the targets, which we have to, especially the aerodromes where they send these bombers to bomb our cities. That was a serious problem for us. They were sending their bombs from the safety of their own territory. We can't reach them. Now we at least can reach to the storage facilities, command centers and aerodromes. We will see how it will work, but they are retaliating. We see rockets all over Ukraine right now as we speak. I don't see if you see from my video, we don't have electricity in Kiev as well.
Goodness me, right. Which puts it all into context, really, because I suppose it depends where you are, how you respond to this story. Because obviously, if you're in Ukraine, you feel as cheered as you can in that situation because something is now happening. Although you might say, why is it taking so long? If you are within the UK, there will be some people who will be concerned, not because they don't want to support Ukraine, but because they are concerned about any retaliation from Russia.
Yeah, it's a bit too late to think of it. I have to remind you that we were using the missiles you supplied to us more than a year ago in the territory of Crimea, which is in the eyes of Russians as Russian territory, as Kursk or any other piece of the land around. So there is no particular policy sort of change. We are at the same war we've been, and actually today's 1,002nd day. So far we've been able to survive just because people like you were supporting us. We hope that will continue.
Here is a thought for you, Vadim. I mean, we've spoken to you for a long time now throughout this war. There is a kind of section of people who feel that perhaps the Ukrainians need to accept a hard truth, which is that Donald Trump is coming into the White House on January the 20th. He says that he said that he could fix the Ukraine-Russia situation in 24 hours. And that may mean that there'll be an end to the war, but that you will have to accept certain things that can't be got back. For example, Crimea. Is that something that you are now having to accept may be a reality?
You're right, and there are people in Ukraine. First of all, we are not made out of steel, all of us. And there are many, many people who are tired, who lost their relatives, lost their close ones. And these people would be more than happy to find the way out. Don't forget that we have 8 million of us outside, some of them in the UK, some of them all around the world. And we are not the huge nation to lose all these millions and millions of people. The problem is, as we say here in Ukraine, if tomorrow Russia stops fighting, there will be no war. If Ukraine stops fighting, there will be no Ukraine. That's where we came from, long time ago. There is nothing we can do. We have to fight, hoping that the new administration in the United States and the rest of our allies will find a way. How to deal it in 24 hours? I don't believe that Russia needs any more lands. Let's keep in mind that they're the biggest territory in the world and they can take care of it properly. It's not about the territory. It's about us existing and reminding them each and every day that actually themselves can be democratic nation as we are trying to become.
You say they don't need any more land. Do you mean Crimea by that, or do you mean other land
But
in addition to
yeah,
Crimea?
the problem is that what you mentioned, that give them Crimea, they will be satisfied, they will crawl back down to their hole. No, they're taking more and more each and every day. They're advancing. We're trying to keep them where they are. But so far, regardless of the losses, they are still advancing in some way in east of Ukraine, and they're coming closer with each and every day. It's not critical dangerous to us, but thousands of people have been killed, and they're still moving, destroying the civilian cities and towns in a way.
Um, Vadim, thank you for talking to us. We will no doubt speak to you again. That is Vadim Prishtaiko. He's a former Ukrainian ambassador to the UK. Let's speak now to James Cartlidge, the Conservative Shadow Secretary of State for Defence. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's pretty grim, really, because it's alarming, it's frightening. It may be very necessary, but Ukraine launches British missiles deep into Russia. That is the front page of the Times. The government won't officially confirm it, but it does seem that this has happened. How much of a difference do you think that will make?
Well, you'll appreciate, I asked John Healey this question yesterday, and I think quite rightly, and I respect this, having been Defence Minister, the government will not comment on this. They won't give a sort of operational running commentary, and I agree with that. So obviously there are lots of reports that appear to be substantiated, but that's, if others can make their conclusions. What I would say is it's really a matter of military strategy here. We have a country, Ukraine, which has been invaded on an entirely unprovoked basis by an aggressive dictatorship. It is a sovereign democracy, and it is trying to defend itself and fight for its life. So obviously we have done everything we can to support them whilst not being directly involved, and part of that is through munitions such as Storm Shadow, and our view has been they should have full autonomy in how they use those to defend themselves, because that's what they will be doing. But the key point I would make is you talk about escalation and what's scary. 10,000 North Korean troops being supplied to fight alongside Russia from a country with an enormous military power is, to me, a huge escalation. And just imagine if there were 10,000 NATO troops fighting on the other side, what Russia would think of that. And I'm afraid when you have two dictatorships like that lining up together, strengthening each other, we have to stand up for freedom, for the international system that we believe in, which is about free nations and democracy. And that means helping Ukraine to defend itself and its freedom.
But you, the Conservatives, could have done this. I mean, I know you're not going to say, we're talking hypothetically here, that if Storm Shadow missiles are being used right now, is this a bit late? Should you have given the green light when you were when the Conservatives were in government?
Well, I think to be critical on that is frankly absurd, because we provided them in the first place. Rishi Sunak gave permission for use in Crimea, and these were hugely impactful decisions, particularly in relation to the Russian Navy in the Black Sea, a huge naval victory for Ukraine in that respect. But it's not straightforward. It's highly complex. Everyone knows there's a role for the US here, and I think on that, all I would say is there've been a lot of speculation about the technicalities of that. The point is, if there were going to be an escalation, we would have to stand together as allies with the US realistically. So of course we've had to work with them on this. As to what's actually happened, you're right. I'm not going to speculate, but there's clearly a lot of coverage to that effect. It's to me, it's really simple. We've just got to keep doing everything we can to help Ukraine stand up to what is a growing military force with the addition of these North Korean troops.
Okay, James Cartlidge, thank you very much. He is the Conservative Shadow Secretary of State for Defence.